days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Tony Lorenzen, the minister at the Mattituck Unitarian Universalist Society and the Unitarian Universalist Church in Meriden. And all of us are very happy you've decided to join us this morning for our Sunday service. We're continuing our month-long spiritual theme of commitment. And today I'm going to reflect a bit on what it means to make a commitment to a congregation as a member, what commitments congregations need to make to their members, and how our past year of pandemic has affected our thinking about that in some ways. We'll also mark the 1-year anniversary since we were forced to move online because of the pandemic. So it's been 1 year since we've been doing these services and other programming online, and we'll take a special look at that this morning as well. Let's begin, as we always do, by lighting the symbol of our faith, the flaming chalice. May this chalice flame remind us of the commitments we make to ourselves, others, and the world around us, to seek justice, practice kindness, and side with love.
One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us and everyone will take one more step. One more word, we will say one more word, till every word is heard by everyone. We'll say one more word. One more prayer, we will say one more prayer, till every prayer is shared by everyone. We'll say one more prayer. One more song, we will sing one more song, till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song.
Unitarian Universalists have a set of 7 principles they agree to. No, not those principles. I'm talking about a different set of principles. Can all of you school principals go get the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism for me? Here they are. These 7 principles are a set of values, things we agree are important. And because they're important and we agree to uphold them, we need to know them in our heart. I'm going to help you remember them using my hands. Our first principle says each and every person is important. I'm holding up one finger to represent one worthy person. Every person is different, and each person has worth and dignity. So that's number 1. Each person is important. The second principle is treat people with kindness and fairness. We believe that all people should be treated kindly and fairly. That's number 2, treat people with kindness and fairness. Our third principle says we help each other learn and grow in spirit. Here we have 3 people. They are learning together and helping and encouraging each other to grow spiritually. That's number 3. We help each other learn and grow in spirit. Our fourth principle is we search for what is true. Imagine your thumb is a flashlight. You can shine your light down many paths as you search for truth and meaning. You are free to search all the paths you can find. You are on a quest for your truth. That's number 4. We search for what is true. Our fifth principle is all people should have a vote. Have you ever raised your hand to vote for something? That's how you can remember our fifth principle. All people should have a vote. Our sixth principle is we work for a peaceful, fair, and free world. Imagine a world in your hand and trace the outline of it. Imagine you're sending peace and fairness around the world. That's number 6. We should work for a peaceful world. Our seventh principle is we care for the earth and are connected to all living things. Look at the hand that holds the earth. Now take your 2 fingers from your other hand and kneel them down to take a close look at the earth. This person is looking closely at how they are a part of the web of life that connects all of us. That's our 7th principle. We care for the earth and are connected to all living things. So there you have it, a handy guide to remembering the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and is in a holy place. When we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of hearts dwells within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, and our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
I want to focus this morning on what membership commitment means to folks in our congregations and in UU congregations in general, and what congregations have as commitments to their members. Let's start off with the membership requirements, let's say, that most Unitarian Universalist congregations ask of their members. Take a membership class and or meet with the minister or some designated person for a class on what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist and or your congregation, to make a yearly financial pledge or contribution, to participate in the life of the congregation, and to agree with and support and promote the UU principles and values and the congregation's mission, and sometimes to sign on to the congregation's covenant. I find it fascinating when signing on to the covenant is not included in membership requirements, because covenant is how we are religious as Unitarian Universalists. We don't have a creed, so there's no must set of theological beliefs you have to uphold or say you believe in. So how we relate to each other, that relationship, that covenant, that mission covenant, is how we are a community. So I find it very interesting when that's not part of the membership agreement, is to hold up that covenant. No matter what a congregation's membership requirements and commitments are, there are always questions that arise about membership. For example, what does the membership class provide? Is it UU education, information to understanding how that particular congregation operates and its history, connection to congregational activities? Is the class substantive? Is it a 1 hour thing? Is it a 1 day session? Is it multiple sessions over time? Different congregations do this different ways. Whenever there's a worry that new members won't know enough about the congregation and its ways, there are usually bylaws that prohibit newer members from voting on the most substantial things, calling a new minister, spending lots of money, and so on. Where I have a problem with that particular approach is make sure your membership class is where it needs to be and what it needs to be. So as soon as someone's a member, they have all the rights as all the other members. What does it mean to participate in congregational activities? To attend one thing sometime during the year? To come to Sunday service one time during the year? To come to Sunday services regularly? To help with a fundraiser? Does it mean consistent participation or only when you feel like it participation? Does it include a commitment to show up? Not because you're a sinner or you go to hell if you don't come to church, but because you make a commitment to regularly be present for all the other members and they to you. What does it mean to make a yearly financial pledge or contribution? Well, very rarely is there a membership fee, let's say, for a Unitarian Universalist congregation. So for a yearly financial contribution, does $1 count? 25 cents? Should it be a certain percentage of gross income? 10%. Very few congregations in our association do that, but I've seen 5% and 3% and 1% of gross income being membership pledge agreements or requirements. Does helping with fundraising count? Does an in-kind contribution count as a financial contribution or pledge? What about when there's true financial hardship? Say a fixed income. Say a fictional member like, say, Mrs. Jones pledged 5% of her income for the 30 plus years she'd been a member, but now as a widowed retiree, she lives on a limited income and has nothing to give. So after what amounts to a lifetime of pledging and service to the congregation, is she no longer a member? Who would say that? I think everyone would say certainly she's a member. And yet, how do our membership requirements or commitments handle this and state this up front when we might run into these situations, how it's going to be handled? Is membership dependent on fulfilling all the requirements of membership or just one of the listed requirements? If it's all of them, is that too much to ask? Will people not join or quit if they have to do too much, if too much is required of them? What if it's only one of them? Will the church be able to survive with that little low level of commitment, or will people tend to drift in and out of the congregation so it never really grows in membership because nothing's really required to be a part of anything? What about stopping or canceling a membership? Yes, people can resign, but what if they don't? What about when they fade away? Can you be removed from membership if you don't meet the yearly requirements? Is there a different level of membership so we don't, quote, kick anyone out, unquote? If you can't remove people from membership, does it force your group into a wild and weird quorum requirement because you might end up with lots of members who are no longer actually involved but still count to your quorum? There was one congregation I served some time ago that nearly did not have a quorum for its congregational vote on becoming a welcoming congregation. And yet virtually everyone who was regularly participating at that time was there. But they had so many members who were officially still members on their rolls who were no longer involved that they almost couldn't make a quorum, even though they had virtually everyone who was a member and involved at that meeting. Can you suspend someone's membership for consistently breaking the group's covenant or violating its policies? Perhaps we should be able to do so, but very rarely do we. Some Unitarian Universalists, and these are usually people of the baby boomer generation or older, feel there shouldn't be many requirements at all because many of them came from religions with too many requirements, so any requirement for membership is too many. And some UUs think that if membership requirements are too loose, not enough people will be committed seriously enough to run the congregation. And so perhaps there's a middle ground. I tend to favor making mistakes on the end of having substantive and meaningful membership requirements. Membership requirements would include members must take a membership class, which should be substantive but not overbearing and ridiculous. And yearly must sign on to the congregation's covenant and abide by its policies, and support the UU principles, values, and the congregation's mission, and make a yearly financial contribution consistent with their own personal finances, and help with fundraising events, and participate regularly in congregational life, which means attending services weekly and regularly participating in other things, with the understanding that life just forces us to miss things now and then, and that's fine. What about the congregation's commitment to members? This is usually left unsaid, and I think it's something we need to work on making sure is more upfront. Members have requirements and commitments they're supposed to make to the congregation. What about the congregation's commitment to its members? Well, perhaps providing Sunday services and other sources of spiritual enrichment is a commitment the congregation makes to members. Providing faith formation and educational opportunities for all ages, providing community service and activism opportunities for all members, and providing a supportive, like-minded community where people feel included and, like family. Are those things that the congregation should commit to providing to its members? I think most of us would say yes. Now, the pandemic year we've just lived through has made me and a lot of other people think about membership and what it means due to the difficulties the pandemic year has thrown at us. So I want to talk about those next.
As I said, we're kind of making this up as we go along this morning. We've never done things quite like this before, obviously. And we're also playing with some new software that we're just learning that we hope to enable us to be able to do this and do this in a way that makes sense.
But these are the times when we are called to be our best selves, to use the wisdom of our Unitarian Universalist faith and to live by that faith. Most of all, let us all be brave. Bravery does not mean not being afraid. Bravery means being afraid and carrying on anyway. And that's what we're called to do. And each of us will find that courage within us to go on and do what we need to do.
May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers. To heal and not to harm. To help and not to hinder. To bless and not to curse.
Our opening song this morning is Blue Boat Home, which is a song about seeing Earth as a spaceship in and of itself. You're right, Chewy. It's not quite the Millennium Falcon, but we like it.
I was born among the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
She speaks in the rushing of rivers. She speaks in the crying of a child. She speaks in the glances of lovers. She speaks in the footsteps of the wild. Oh la 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 la, oh la la, oh lay, oh la 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 la, oh la la, oh la 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 la, oh la la, oh lay, oh la 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 la, oh la la, oh. You can sing this. Oh la 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 la, oh la la, oh lay, oh la 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 la, oh la la, oh. Oh la 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 la, oh la la, oh lay, oh la 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 la, la la la, oh.
Good morning to those watching
watching us online, good morning to everyone here. For anyone here or online who may not know who I am, I'm Reverend Tony Lorenzen, the minister here at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Meriden, where we're near the Spiral Garden, and also at the Mattituck Unitarian Universalist Society in Woodbury. And all of us from both congregations welcome you here today, and we welcome you joining us online once again. I want to invite you to participate in the words of the chalice lighting with me. May this flame, invite us into fellowship, inspire our spirit, and ignite in us a passion for economic, racial, and environmental justice. Amen. All right. I love when the congregation says amen. Let's do that again. And the congregation said amen. Amen. Excellent. And remember, amen is only a Hebrew word that means yes, I agree.
And so the shortest day came, and the year died. And everywhere down the centuries of the snow-white world came people singing, dancing to drive the dark away. They lighted candles in the winter trees. They hung their homes with evergreen. They burned beseeching fires all night long to keep the year alive. And when the New Year's sunshine blazed awake, they shouted, reveling. Through all the frosty ages you can hear them echoing behind us. Listen! All the long echoes sing the same delight this shortest day. As promise wakens in the sleeping land, they carol, feast, give thanks, and dearly love their friends, and hope for peace. And so do we here now, this year and every year. Welcome Yule!
In his eulogy for American humorist Marshall Pinckney Wilder, who coincidentally died 106 years ago today, his friend, the philosopher and writer Elbert Hubbard, in praise of Wilder's optimism in the face of adversity, coined the proverbial phrase, "When life gives you lemons, make lemonade." This adage has been variously quoted by many others since then. In 1940, the following verse was published in the Rotarian, author unknown. Life handed him a lemon, as life sometimes will do. His friends looked on in pity, assuming he was through. They came upon him later, reclining in the shade, in calm contentment drinking a glass of lemonade.
A song I've been listening to a lot lately describes the difficulty with American history from the perspective of sensitive white people trying to figure out how to move forward. It's called We Americans, and it's from the latest Avett Brothers CD released last fall.
I am a son of Uncle Sam, and I struggle to understand the good and evil, but I'm doing the best I can in a place built on stolen land with stolen people.
You can't catch me! What invisible score changer? I didn't see it.
You can't see it because it's invisible. Duh!
I stole your flag. Step it, Wickets, for me.
What are you guys doing?
We're playing Calvin ball.
We've been able to do some outdoor visits with friends. I'm getting a lot more sewing projects done, but I miss seeing everyone at Sunday services and singing. And hugs. I miss hugs.
As I reflect on these last few months, I have to say that in the beginning of all this, when we all went home about mid-March, I think I was feeling pretty nervous, scared, frightened. The idea of the unknown, not knowing much about the virus itself or how things would play out. I'm a teacher. I wasn't sure how I would be able to continue my job online. I wasn't sure what would happen with my teenage son, who was home from high school, and my husband, who teaches music in another middle and high school in New York State. Around late April, sometime in May, all of a sudden just waking up one day and feeling like, you know what, here I am, feeling uncomfortable, feeling awkward, and the world is continuing to spin around. Every day the sun rises, every day I have to feed my family, I have to get on with my work, and I could either be in this kind of funk for the next however many months this was going to go, or if I really believed what I was sharing with friends and family, that this really could go on for quite a while. I did not want to be in that space for that length of time, and so I decided I needed to just get creative about what we were doing, and if there was something that I missed doing, seeing my friends, visiting with my family, I needed to just find a new way of doing that.
This past year of pandemic and quarantine has raised more questions for us about commitment in terms of membership and what a congregation needs to make as commitments to its members. Trauma is a big part of this. Trauma has made it difficult for both members and the congregation to fulfill their commitments to each other. Trauma leaves us feeling lethargic, can make us depressed, can make it difficult for us to do things, can sap our energy, can bring on anxiety, can make us physically ill. Lots of things are the effects that trauma can cause that impacts our ability to keep our commitments, not only to a congregation or a congregation to its members, but to ourselves, to our family. So that's had a huge impact. The congregation has had trouble providing spiritual resources and worship resources to people who can't or won't connect through technology and the internet. And this is true not just for our congregation, but for very many congregations of all types. The congregation has had a very hard time providing educational opportunities and support for families and parents, because working from home and going to school from home and household life all wrapped into one long ongoing day has left people frazzled and tired and without the energy to attend more meetings or help make events or things happen or activities happen for younger people, and without the desire to have church be yet another thing that puts children in front of a computer screen. In the past year, we've had to deal with the reality that we had to rotate and take turns keeping our membership commitments and our leadership commitments. When quarantine life and pandemic life was just too much, people stepped back, and then others had to step up and take up the slack. And then the people who had stepped up felt things were just too much and they had to back off. And the people who had initially backed off had to step up and take over. And we kind of rotated through that a couple times during the past year in each of our congregations. Many members have had a hard time financially, and giving is down, and understandably so. And many members, some who are very active usually and very involved, have not been able to participate in activities or attend services or help in any way due to the pandemic effects, not only of financial anxiety, but being down, parenting demands, and the pandemic trauma lethargy that I've spoken of. No one is to blame, and certainly enforcing any required commitments would be ridiculous given our extraordinary pandemic year circumstances. But moving forward into post-pandemic church, we need to be more aware of how we approach membership and how we provide welcome and hospitality. For some time to come, there will be people uncomfortable with tuning in online. And after we begin meeting in person again, there will be those who will still be uncomfortable in doing that. Can we do better going forward at keeping everyone in the congregation connected? Can we do better at being in touch? Can we do better at the congregation making commitments to its members? Well, this is going to depend on energy and involvement of the members and leaders we have? Will we have enough people with enough energy once again to make enough things happen that more people feel in touch and connected? I know that what we're facing right now is some folks who have been helping make things happen and helping the congregations run through pandemic year are now finally getting tired and feeling a little burnt out, and we may need to take turns yet again. Involvement is required for a congregation to keep its commitments to its members. So it really is a reciprocation. If members can keep their commitments, the congregation can keep commitments to members. But if not enough members keep their commitments, the congregation can't keep its commitments as well. What might the future of membership look like? Well, there are many more models than the one model most UU congregations have used for many years. One possible model is having a rather open membership. Anyone who attends a membership class and signs on to the covenant and mission is welcome to join. But in addition to membership, perhaps there's another level of involvement that's recognized, a leadership level that requires more heavy commitment, such as financial support at a serious level, 3% or 5% of income, a multi-session leadership training course for congregational leaders, regular participation in events and weekly attendance at services, with, of course, the recognition that life gets in the way and no one is ever going to be there 100% of the time. Maybe one must be a leader, not just a member, to serve on the top leadership teams, such as the board or finance. Maybe everyone gets to vote. Maybe only leaders vote. Now, this is just one model, and I've seen this model before in churches. I went to a conference once at a Methodist church that had thousands, 6,000 members, and near 10,000 people attending various services on Sunday, but only had 1,500 members because their membership requirements were steep. Perhaps new attitudes and approaches to fundraising will affect the financial commitments we ask of members. No matter how generous members are, the days of operating a congregation on membership pledges and donations alone is over. From now on, congregations will have to raise funds as a matter of course and as a matter of survival. Now, this means that our members' ability to fulfill their financial commitment to the congregation is even more important, because even with everyone fulfilling that commitment, it's probably still not going to be enough. So as the congregational leaders come around in the coming weeks and months asking you to make a commitment for the coming year, please understand that that is vitally important, even at the same time as we recognize we're going to do more and more fundraising. Maybe participation in organizing and running fundraisers becomes a membership commitment. Post-pandemic congregational life will have us exploring many ideas and options. One thing is for certain: without a commitment to support each other and be there for each other, congregations, including ours, cannot survive. So we must continue to do so. No matter how our membership commitments are constructed, there will always be those who do more than their fair share, because there will always be those who can. And just as there will be those who do more than their fair share, there will be those who can't do their, quote, fair share for many reasons: physical, emotional, their personal family life or work situations. I believe going forward, mission focus will be ever more important in the post-pandemic church. And the more clearly a congregation defines itself and its mission, the more likely it is that some people will feel the mission in the congregational life may not be for them, and that's okay. Post-pandemic church will have us realizing that keeping members just to have pledging units or membership numbers has nothing to do with health and vitality. Rather, being focused on mission and being supportive to our community and taking care of our members will have a huge impact on health and vitality. One thing is for certain: without the commitment to be there for each other, and without the flexibility to sometimes take turns, in bearing the heaviest load of our membership and leadership commitments, we're not going to thrive. So we will continue to do that. Going forward, as we move into a new way of being and living as a congregation post-pandemic, I hope everyone will be participating in ongoing conversations about what we expect of each other as part of our covenants in order to fulfill our mission, and what commitments we can and should make to each other as members, and what commitments the congregation should be making to you as individuals who are members.
I light this candle to celebrate the joy of spending 365 days in my family bubble with Amy, Kevin, and all our pets.
This story from my pandemic experience is from my chaplaincy training at Bridgeport Hospital last summer. I was assigned the COVID floor, and it took me a week or two to get up the nerve to gown up and go in and visit them. And what I found was sheer loneliness on their part. They were so happy that I took the time to come in and just listen to them. You know, obviously no family members could come, and FaceTime just doesn't cut it. So they were very grateful. And technically, as chaplains, we're supposed to keep our visits to 30 minutes. Well, I just could not, I couldn't do that. They just kept talking and talking, and it was very rewarding.
Looking back on the last year with COVID, it gives us pause for all the people who have died, but also a little bit of joy of the amount of time that we've had to be with our grandchildren, Miles and Jackson, and substitute teaching while they've been doing school from home. And that's been a joy for us. Thank you.
We share a special type of community as congregations, sharing resources and sharing in each other's lives. Within this community, we find and share belonging, meaning, and friendship. We come as we are, and we accept others as they are, fellow travelers on life's journey. We create and sustain connections of heart and spirit, and pledge to support others as we trust that others will support us when we need companionship and comfort. Today, we hold these people especially close to our hearts, sending our light and our love to those who need it most. Angelique Metivier, who had surgery this week. Steve Barnes, his family and friends, as Steve passed away recently. Becky Skinner and her granddaughter Lyra. Cassandra Hardaby, who's been having some struggles lately. Connie Welton, who remains in rehab. Paul, Richard, and Rhiannon Klein, and all those struggling with disease and illnesses, both visible and invisible. We know there are many prayers and needs and joys and concerns and struggles and celebrations we have not named this morning, and all of them deserve our love, understanding, and support. May the love of this community inspire us and strengthen us in our own life's journey. May the light of our chalice remind us that we are all part of a sacred fire of life and all treasured members of this community. May we never forget that there is a love that holds us all. Marking 1 year since the pandemic moved our church services and programming online, we offer a special reflection and prayer and meditation this morning.
Spirit of life, it's been a powerful, difficult, inspiring year. We've gone through so much and needed to rely on all of our sacred resources. We've been afraid of public spaces, workplaces, churches, strangers, friends, and family for fear of getting sick. We've been heavy-hearted with grief, loss, death, depression, and anxiety. We've been frustrated by family, friends, neighbors, and fellow citizens who scoffed at public health and safety recommendations and endangered themselves, others, and us with their stubborn ignorance. We've been angry at the way so many people ignored and minimized the reality and the risk, the death and the dying of this pandemic. We've been angry at the incompetence of a president and a government, and our anger spilled into rage because things need not have been so bad. Solutions and vaccines could have been found more quickly, and so many people did not have to die. We've been lonely, isolated in quarantine, masks separating us from smiles and kind faces, 6 feet separating us from handshakes and hugs and simple human touch. We've been amazed at the compassion, courage, professionalism of doctors and nurses, educators and healthcare staff and school staff, and local leaders who promoted public safety while the federal government failed us. We've realized that the real essential people in our community are not the important and the wealthy, but the truck drivers, the cooks and servers, the postal carriers, the pharmacy techs, the grocery store clerks and stock people, and others we have failed to notice or ignored. And yet all was not hardship, dread, or trauma. We have also gained insight, wisdom, and compassion. We've gained perspective, realizing that we don't want to go back to normal, for normal was also full of sickness and dis-ease, inequality, hard-heartedness, oppression, hate, white supremacy, and just plain mean-spiritedness. We don't want to go back to normal. We've learned to use technology as a tool, become more computer savvy and technologically literate, while also gaining a deeper respect and understanding for the technology and its pitfalls, dangers, and inadequacies. We've adapted to having meetings online, getting groceries via a drive-through pickup, working from home and going to school from home. We've been humbled by parenting through this time, as taking care of children, doing our jobs, and managing our households morphed into one all-demanding constant task, the way months and weeks blended into one long pandemic day. We've rediscovered the power, beauty, and necessity of our connection to Mother Earth and the natural world, how we need its ability to ground us and heal us, and how important it is that we save it from destruction. We've answered the call of love despite the obstacles and difficulties presented by battling this virus. We've showed up consistently week after week, insistent in our demand that all lives can't matter until Black lives matter. We phone banked and text banked and held signs and registered voters and worked the polls, fighting for the survival of democracy itself, and we won. In spite of all the obstacles, we made sure that love won once again. We've cultivated new skills, new practices, and new habits, learning how to make bread, can vegetables, sew, paint, or play an instrument. We've reawakened to the reality that we need each other. Not only family and friends, but the barista who makes our coffee and the server who prepares and serves our sandwich or our salad. We've reclaimed a part of our humanity from the before time of blindly passing through so much of our existence. We've remembered that people matter more than profit, and that life and work doesn't need to happen at a breakneck pace. We've survived. And we've renewed our ability to be grateful for small things. We've hung on to hope and each other, and we've made it through the only way we could, together. Amen, and blessed be.
nature's harmony in an architecture so entwined. Like the birds whose patterns grace the sky and carry all who join in love expanding, the message of peace will rise in flight, taking the weight of the world upon its wings. Leave the oneness of everything. Peace is in the dance of trees who stir before the first breath of wind is yet perceived. Trust in the song becoming one with the dance, and the mysteries can be believed. Songs of lines long past that touch alone are written in the earth ever giving, and now to maintain the harmony gives to us all life's worth living. For the oneness of everything. Still we seek to find a truth that we might understand and reduce to terms defined. Vast and immeasurable time and space, also overwhelmingly designed. Oh, passing years just might hide all the faith that winters in the heart to be reborn in spring, to hear and to feel the pulse of life, and just my soul as a song to sing of the oneness of everything.
This past week, another round of financial aid stimulus package was passed by Congress and signed by the President. So many of us will be receiving more government assistance money in the mail or directly deposited into our accounts. I want to ask you all who are members and friends of our congregations that if you can afford to donate part of that check, part of that stimulus money you will receive, we would deeply appreciate it. Both of our congregations have a situation where the pandemic has hurt the congregation financially. Just as individuals have been hurting financially, so have the congregations. And our giving is a bit down, and we're still trying to do a lot of our good work, including these services that you're watching right now. If you can give a tithe of 10% of that check to the congregations, or $10 to the congregation, every little bit would help. There are also some important events coming up. There will be fundraisers such as a raffle and some more online concerts in Meriden. There will be at the Mattituck Youth Society an upcoming online auction, and stewardship pledge drive time is coming up in both congregations. So perhaps if you can afford to, think about making a bit of a donation from that stimulus money to the congregations. We could deeply appreciate it. Another use for donations is to help our vulnerable neighbors. The Social Justice Council of the Unitarian Universalist Church in Meriden has reminded us that our undocumented friends and neighbors will not be receiving a stimulus payment, and they are much in need of financial assistance, as all the rest of us are. In this past year, the Social Justice Council in Meriden has been giving to a dozen undocumented families with Visa and grocery store chain cards. United Way Grant helped provide some relief, and the money we've been using to provide relief is way down and almost exhausted. So if you can donate a portion of your stimulus to help our undocumented neighbors in Meriden, we would also greatly appreciate it. And you can notate that donation SJC, and we'll know what that is for when we receive it. So I ask you to consider donating just a little bit if you can, or a lot, or even all the check if you can. But whatever you can give is deeply appreciated, because our congregations, just like our members, have been struggling through this pandemic year financially, and we would deeply appreciate your generosity. Thank you so much for considering that.
Our service may be drawing to a close, but there's always coffee hour. Please pour a cup of your favorite beverage and zoom on in. Join us for coffee at go.uucentralct.org/coffee. That's go.uucentralct.org/coffee. We'll see you in a few minutes.
From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirit into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice lit by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
We're very glad you decided to join us this morning. Thanks for being with us. If you're new to us, please leave me a note in the chat if you'd like me to be in touch. My email is revtonyuu, revtonyuu@gmail.com. And please email me if you'd like me to be in touch to chat a little bit more about our congregations, or Unitarian Universalism. We've put out our chalice flame, and we are reminded once again that we take that flame with us and carry it in our heart wherever we go. May its sacred fire indeed remind us of our holy commitments to ourselves, others, and the world around us. We'll see you next week, holy ones. Go in peace.
Thank you.